The bag hit the pavement with a dull thud, spilling its contents across the rain-slicked alley. Ezra Caldwell, tech mogul and San Francisco's most enigmatic bachelor, froze as his eyes locked on a glinting silver locket among the stolen goods. It was hers, Clara's, the wife he'd lost 5 years ago to a car accident that still haunted his dreams. He knelt, trembling as the thief, a wiry figure cloaked in shadow, bolted into the night. The locket, engraved with a tiny star, was unmistakable. Clara had worn it every day, a gift from their first anniversary. How had it ended up here, in the hands of a stranger? Ezra's heart pounded, not from the chase but from the impossible hope that this was a message, a sign she wasn't truly gone. The alley behind his Mission District penthouse was no place for revelations. Yet here he was, clutching a piece of his past. Ezra, 32, had built a fortune on AI startups, but no algorithm could explain this. He pocketed the locket and turned back to his sleek black car, where his driver, Maria, waited with a raised eyebrow. "You okay, boss?" she asked, her voice cutting through the fog of his thoughts. "I need to find them," Ezra said, his voice low, almost a growl. "The thief. They know something." Maria, a 45-year-old woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, nodded. "You sure you're not chasing ghosts?" Ezra didn't answer. He couldn't. The locket burned against his chest, a tether to a life he'd buried. He slid into the car, his mind racing. The thief wasn't just a petty crook. They were a key to unraveling a mystery he hadn't dared to face. By morning, Ezra had called in favors from private investigators and his tech team at Caldwell Innovations. The city's underbelly wasn't his world, but money opened doors. He needed answers. Who was the thief, and how had they gotten Clara's locket? His office, a glass-walled perch overlooking the bay, became a war room. Photos of the alley, grainy security footage, and a map of the Mission District sprawled across his desk. At noon, a lead came through. The thief had been spotted at a dive bar in the Tenderloin, a place called the Rusty Anchor. Ezra didn't hesitate. He swapped his tailored suit for a hoodie and jeans, blending into the city's eclectic pulse. The bar was dim, reeking of stale beer and regret. Patrons eyed him warily. A millionaire in a den of outcasts, but Ezra didn't care. He scanned the room until he saw them. The thief sat in a corner booth, nursing a drink. They were young, maybe 30, with short, vibrant purple hair and a leather jacket that had seen better days. Their name, Ezra would later learn, was Riley, a non-binary hustler with a rap sheet longer than their arm. Riley's eyes met his, sharp and guarded, like a cornered animal. "You've got something of mine," Ezra said, sliding into the booth uninvited. Riley smirked, unfazed. "You're the guy from the alley. What, you track me down for a wallet? Keep it." "It's not about the wallet." Ezra pulled the locket from his pocket, holding it up. Riley's smirk faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. They knew something. "Where did you get this?" Ezra pressed, his voice steady but laced with desperation. Riley leaned back, crossing their arms. "Found it. Pawn shop couple weeks ago. What's it to you?" Ezra's jaw tightened. A pawn shop? Clara's locket, her most cherished possession, tossed into a glass case like junk? It didn't add up. "You're lying," he said, leaning closer. "This belonged to my wife. She's gone. So tell me the truth, or I make your life hell." Riley's eyes flickered with something. Fear, maybe, or recognition. They stood, tossing a few bills on the table. "I don't know you, rich boy. Stay out of my way." But Ezra wasn't letting go. He followed Riley out into the street, the locket still clutched in his hand. The city buzzed around them, cable cars clanging, vendors shouting. But all he could hear was the echo of Clara's laugh, a sound he hadn't heard in years. That night, Ezra couldn't sleep. The locket lay on his nightstand, its star engraving catching the moonlight. He'd hired a PI, Lena, a 38-year-old former cop with a knack for finding people who didn't want to be found. By dawn, she had a file on Riley. Born in Oakland, bounced through foster homes, a string of petty thefts but nothing violent. They were a ghost in the system, slipping through cracks Ezra's wealth couldn't touch. He met Lena at a coffee shop in No Valley, her sharp gaze cutting through the morning crowd. "Riley's not just a thief," she said, sliding a photo across the table. It showed Riley at a shelter handing out blankets. "They're complicated. Got a heart, even if they don't show it." Ezra stared at the photo. Riley's face was softer there, unguarded. "Why'd they run from me?" Lena shrugged. "You're a millionaire waving around a locket like it's a bomb. I'd run too." He didn't laugh. The locket wasn't just a keepsake. It was a piece of Clara, a reminder of the life they'd planned. Marriage, kids, a house in Marin. All gone in a screech of tires and a hospital's sterile silence. "I need to talk to them again," Ezra said. "Set it up." Lena raised an eyebrow but nodded. "You're not gonna like what you find, Caldwell. People like Riley don't spill secrets easy." She was right. The next meeting, arranged through a mutual contact at the shelter, was tense. Riley showed up at a park in the Castro, their posture defensive, eyes darting like they expected a trap. Ezra sat on a bench, the locket in his hand, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I just need to know where you got this. Please." Riley hesitated, then sat, keeping distance between them. "I wasn't lying. Pawn shop in Oakland. Guy said it came from an estate sale. I didn't ask questions." "And estate sale?" Ezra's voice cracked. Clara's family had cleared her things after the accident, but they'd sworn the locket was lost. Had they lied? Or was something else at play? Riley's eyes softened, just a fraction. "Look, I get it. It's important to you. But I don't have answers. I just needed cash." Ezra studied them, the way their hands fidgeted, the way their voice held a quiet pain. "Why do you do it?" "The stealing?" Riley laughed, bitter. "You ever been hungry, rich boy?" Didn't think so. But Ezra had been hungry not for food, but for meaning. After Clara, he'd thrown himself into work, building an empire to drown the grief. It hadn't worked. And now, this stranger with her locket was pulling him back to the edge of something he couldn't name. "I'll pay you," he said suddenly. "Whatever you need. Just help me find out where this came from." Riley stared at him, weighing his words. "You don't even know me." "I know you kept this locket instead of pawning it," Ezra said, holding their gaze. "That means something." For the first time, Riley didn't look away. The unlikely alliance formed under the weight of that moment. Riley agreed to help, though their terms were clear. No cops, no tricks, and Ezra had to keep up. "I'm not your sidekick," Riley said, their voice sharp as they led him through Oakland's gritty streets. Ezra, out of place in his polished shoes, followed, the locket a constant weight in his pocket. Their first stop was the pawn shop, a cramped storefront wedged between a liquor store and a laundromat. The owner, a grizzled man in his 60s named Sal, squinted at the locket. "Yeah, I sold that. Came from an estate lot, some lady's stuff. Don't remember her name." Ezra's heart sank. "You don't keep records?" Sal shrugged. Cash business. You want details, talk to the guy who brought it in. Shady type. Hangs at the docks. Riley exchanged a look with Ezra. The docks ain't friendly to suits like you, they warned. But Ezra was past caring. He needed answers, and the docks were the next thread to pull. That night, they drove to the port of Oakland, the air thick with salt and diesel. Riley moved like they belonged, weaving through shadowed crates while Ezra trailed, his pulse racing. They found Sal's contact, a wiry man in his 40s named Vince, leaning against a rusted shipping container. His eyes narrowed at Ezra's approach. "You the one asking about the locket?" Vince's voice was gravelly, suspicious. Ezra nodded, holding up the locket. "It belonged to my wife. I need to know where you got it." Vince smirked. "Memory lane's expensive, friend." Riley stepped forward, their tone cold. "He's got money. Talk." Vince pocketed the cash Ezra offered and pointed to a warehouse. "Got it from a guy who works there. Said it was from a crash, some car wreck years back. That's all I know." A crash. Ezra's knees buckled. Clara's accident had been on a quiet road outside the city. A drunk driver who'd fled the scene. The police had never found him. Could this be the lead they'd missed? Riley grabbed his arm, steadying him. "You good?" Ezra nodded, though he wasn't. "We need to find that guy." The warehouse was a maze of crates and flickering lights. Riley's street smarts kept them unnoticed, but Ezra's presence drew stares. They found the man Vince described, a hulking figure named Carl, mid-50s, with a scar across his cheek. He was loading boxes, oblivious to their approach. Riley whispered, "Let me handle this." They sauntered up, all charm and confidence. "Hey, Carl. Heard you're the guy for estate goods." Carl grunted, barely looking up. "Who's asking?" Ezra couldn't wait. He stepped forward, holding out the locket. "This. Where'd you get it?" Carl's eyes widened, just for a second, before he turned away. "Don't know it." "You're lying," Ezra snapped, his voice raw. "This came from a car crash. My wife's crash." Carl's face hardened. He swung a fist, but Riley was faster, pulling Ezra back. "Run!" they shouted, and the two bolted through the warehouse, dodging crates as Carl's shouts echoed behind them. They made it to the car, hearts pounding. Maria, waiting nearby, gunned the engine. "Told you this was a bad idea," she muttered as they sped off. Ezra clutched the locket, his mind reeling. Carl knew something, maybe everything, but the danger was real now, and Riley's involvement was deeper than they'd planned. "Why, you still here?" Ezra asked Riley later, as they sat in a diner, catching their breath. Riley shrugged, but their eyes were softer now. "Maybe I'm curious. Or maybe I just hate bullies like Carl." Ezra smiled faintly, the first real smile in days. There was something about Riley, their defiance, their guarded heart, that felt like a mirror to his own. The trail led to a dead end, or so it seemed. Carl vanished, and the warehouse was locked tight the next day. Ezra's PI, Lena, dug deeper, uncovering a name tied to the crash. Daniel Holt, a lowlife with a history of DUIs. He'd been in the area the night Clara died, but the police had never pinned him. Ezra's grief, long buried, roared back. He sat in his penthouse, staring at the locket, replaying Clara's last moments. Had Daniel taken it from the wreck? Sold it to cover his tracks? The questions gnawed at him, but Riley's voice cut through. "You're gonna drive yourself crazy," they said, perched on his couch, their purple hair catching the light. They'd shown up uninvited, claiming they felt like checking in. Ezra didn't mind. Riley's presence grounded him, a tether to the present. "I need to know," Ezra said. "If Daniel's the one, I need to face him." Riley nodded, their jaw tight. "Then we do it together. But you gotta promise me something." "What?" "No hero crap. This guy's dangerous." Ezra agreed, but his heart wasn't in it. He wasn't a hero, just a man chasing ghosts. Lena tracked Daniel to a rundown motel in Hayward. Ezra and Riley arrived at dusk, the neon sign flickering like a warning. Daniel was there, a gaunt man in his 40s, eyes bloodshot. He froze when he saw the locket in Ezra's hand. "Where'd you get that?" he slurred. "You tell me," Ezra said, his voice ice cold. "You were there, weren't you?" "The crash. My wife." Daniel's face crumpled. "I didn't mean to, it was an accident." Ezra lunged, but Riley held him back. "Let him talk," they hissed. Daniel's story spilled out, messy and raw. He'd been drunk, fleeing the scene, and found the locket on the road. He'd kept it, not out of malice but shame, a reminder of the life he'd taken. He'd sold it years later, desperate for cash. Ezra's hands shook. "You killed her, and you kept this like some trophy?" "It wasn't like that," Daniel mumbled, tears streaking his face. "I'm sorry." Riley's hand rested on Ezra's shoulder, steadying him. "He's not worth it," they whispered. "You've got the truth now. Let it go." But Ezra couldn't. Not yet. He left Daniel sobbing in the motel, the locket still in his hand, its weight heavier than ever. The truth didn't heal, it cut deeper. Ezra withdrew, locking himself in his penthouse, the locket a constant companion. Riley, stubborn as ever, refused to let him spiral. They showed up daily, dragging him to coffee shops, parks, anywhere but the dark corners of his mind. "You can't live in the past," Riley said one evening, as they sat on Ezra's rooftop garden, the city sprawling below. "Clara's gone, but you're not." Ezra looked at them, really looked, for the first time. Riley's sharp edges hid a warmth he hadn't expected. Their life, foster homes, survival, theft, was a world apart from his. Yet they understood loss in a way he hadn't anticipated. "Why do you care?" he asked, his voice soft. Riley's gaze dropped. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything. And I see you fighting not to." Something shifted. Ezra reached for their hand, tentative, and Riley didn't pull away. The moment was fragile, electric, a spark in the dark. Days turned to weeks. They kept searching, not for answers now but for closure. Ezra funded a shelter in Clara's name, and Riley, to his surprise, volunteered there. Their bond grew, quiet but undeniable, built on shared silences and stolen glances. One night, at a fundraiser for the shelter, Ezra saw Riley across the room, laughing with a group of kids. They wore a borrowed suit, their purple hair tamed for once, and Ezra's heart ached. Not with grief, but something new. He crossed the room, pulling them aside. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick, "for everything." Riley smiled, a rare, unguarded smile. "Don't get sappy on me, rich boy." But they didn't move away when Ezra leaned closer, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. The locket found a new home, not in Ezra's pocket but on a shelf in the shelter, displayed with a photo of Clara. It wasn't about letting go. It was about honoring her. Ezra and Riley stood together at the dedication, their hands brushing, a silent promise. Daniel faced charges, but Ezra didn't attend the trial. Justice couldn't bring Clara back, but it could protect someone else. He poured his energy into the shelter, working alongside Riley, who'd found a purpose beyond survival. One evening on the rooftop garden, Ezra turned to Riley. "I was lost before you," he said, his voice steady. "You gave me a reason to keep going." Riley's eyes shone, their usual bravado gone. "You did the same for me." They kissed under the stars, the city humming below, a moment of healing and hope. The locket had led Ezra to the truth, but Riley had led him to a future. The shelter thrived, a beacon for those society overlooked, just as Riley once was. Ezra and Riley, an unlikely pair, became its heart, proving that love could bloom in the ashes of loss, that even a thief's bag could hold a miracle.